morning all. I am Dr. Nagalingam from Lakshmi Narayana Institute of Medical Sciences and I am an associate professor. Today we will see something about skeletal muscle relaxants and reversal agents. Here, now we are going to see the structure of the neuromuscular junction and the transmission of impulses and the action of neuromuscular blocking agents. Mechanism of action, types, doses, side effects, indications, and the contraindications of skeletal muscle relaxants. And we'll discuss something about the pharmacology of drugs used in induction and maintenance of general anesthesia, including depolarizing and non-depolarizing muscle relaxants. These are all the questions commonly you can come across various type of examinations, pharmacology, entrance examinations, final examinations. You will come across all these questions. Let's see what is neuromuscular blocking drugs. These are the agents that act peripherally at neuromuscular junctions, muscle fiber itself to block neuromuscular transmission. Why we need neuromuscular drugs? In order to facilitate muscle relaxation for surgery, optimize the surgical working conditions, and for mechanical ventilation during surgery or in we'll see something interesting facts about the history of neuromuscular blocking drugs. South Americans, like Brazilian countries, they will use that tribal peoples, they will use some kind of arrows for hunting purposes. If the arrow hit, they will mix with some chemicals. If it hits with any animals, it will just paralyze the animals. This is where the history muscle relaxants born from these tribal people. After the proper research, then they found it's a muscle relaxant. Now in the current scenario, we are using muscle relaxants that we will see. How the skeletal muscle relaxation can be achieved intraoperatively or during mechanical intervention. Intraoperatively, high doses of volatile anesthetics can be given. Regional anesthesia can be given. And administration of neuromuscular blocking drugs also can be given. But during mechanical ventilation, the scenario is in ICU setup, the scenario was entirely different. That time we are using mainly neuromuscular blocking drugs. How do they work? The muscle relaxants mainly work on the neuromuscular junction. Act on the nerve terminals or endplate of muscles, synaptic cluster. It will block the nerve stimulation and it releases the acetylcholine to act on the postsynaptic clusters. You can see the picture of the neuromuscular junction. You can see the nerve endings shows the storage vesicles. Acetylcholine mainly stored in the vesicle. You can see the presynaptic terminal membrane and the nerve side of the sphincters. The muscle cell. You can see a nicotinic collagen receptors and muscle fibers. The motor end plate also you can see. The space between the motor end plate and the nerve end plate, it is called the synaptic cluster. These drugs mainly act on the skeletal muscle relaxants, mainly act on the periphery of the neuromuscular junction. The nicotinic receptor, acetylcholine, is called the muscle. You see something about the types of skeletal muscle relaxants. Competitive is called a non-depolarizing muscle relaxants, and the non-competitive is called depolarizing muscle relaxants. Aminonucleic acid, these are all the miscellaneous muscle relaxants. There are other muscle relaxants also that is called centrally acting muscle relaxants also is there. That is separate. An example, see depolarizing muscle relaxants are succinylcholine, diclofenac. The non-depolarizing muscle relaxants are ultra short acting, intermediate acting, and long acting. Depolarizing muscle relaxants most commonly used in clinical practice is succinylcholine. They physically resemble acetylcholine. Act as a acetylcholine receptor agonist, not metabolized locally at neuromuscular junction. It metabolized by pseudocholinesterase in the plasma. Depolarizing action persists more than the acetylcholine. Continuous end-plate depolarization causes muscle relaxation. This way, the succinylcholine works. The shortest acting neuromuscular blocking agent causes paralysis of skeletal muscles. Sequence of paralysis may be different from that of non-depolarizing drugs, but respiratory muscles are paralyzed at last. You see a lot of muscles, eyelids are the first and the diaphragm is the last. The reversal happens in the opposite way. The diaphragm will reverse as a first and the eyelids as a last. It produces transient twitching of the skeletal muscle before causing block. It is called fasciculations. It causes the maintained depolarization at the end plate, which leads to a loss of electrical excitability. It has short duration of action. These drugs act as acetylcholine but persist at the synapse at high concentration and for longer duration and constantly stimulate the receptors. First, opening of sodium channel occurs, resulting in depolarization. This leads to transient twitching of the muscles. Continuous binding of drugs make the receptors incapable to transmit the impulses and paralysis occurs. The continued depolarization makes the receptor incapable of transmitting further impulses. What is the clinical use of succinylcholine? It most often used to facilitate intubation. It's useful for all difficult intubation cases. Though intubation can be done with various kind of drugs and muscle relaxants, succinylcholine is the most commonly drug for difficult intubation. What is the dose we can use for succinylcholine? The dose 1.2 to 1.5 mg per kg, that is the most common intubating dose. The onset of action 30 to 60 seconds. Duration of action 5 to 10 minutes. This is the reason because of this fastest onset 30 to 60 seconds. Mainly useful for full stomach patients, emergency intubation cases, rapid sequence intubation patients. Succinylcholine is very much useful. What is the phase 1 neuromuscular blocking? What is phase 2 neuromuscular blocking? Phase 2 mainly, you can remember, it resembles blockade produced by non-depolarizing blockade. Succinylcholine infusion more than 5 to 7 mg per kg is called phase 2 neuromuscular blockade. Phase 1 blockade mainly is the succinylcholine. What are the side effects? See, with succinylcholine, cardiovascular system will have a sudden bradycardia, after that tachycardia. So to overcome this effect, anticholinergic most commonly used with succinylcholine. Example, atropine and glycopyrrolate. Fasciculations you will see mostly with succinylcholine. This fasciculation may cause the muscle pain. Postoperatively, patient may complain severe muscle pain, cramps because of this succinylcholine. It increases intraocular pressure. So, in eye surgeries, like especially like glaucoma surgeries, succinylcholine should be avoided. It increases intragastric pressure. So, patient with full stomach patients, we should be very cautious, especially in pregnant patients, any emergency surgeries. While we are doing rapid sequence intubations, we should keep it in mind because it may cause aspiration. It increases the intracranial pressure. So this may be the reason we are avoiding in head injury patients, intubations. It causes hyperkalemia. Sometimes it may cause a life-threatening complications because of hyperkalemia. This will be mostly avoided in muscular dystrophy patients, burn patients, because those who are already potassium level is high. If you are giving succinylcholine to this kind of patients, patient may develop severe arrhythmias and patient may develop sudden collapse and death. Prolonged paralysis. Succinylcholine induced neuromuscular blockage can be significantly prolonged if the patient has an abnormal genetic variant of beta-choline esterase. It is called atypical pseudocholine esterase. Here in this local area of Pondicherry, a particular community is there. That community is having that specific problem. Most of the community people themselves, they will come and tell you they belong to that particular community. And it may cause the malignant hyperthermia. That's one of the life-threatening complications. So in this case, we should avoid succinylcholine. Prolonged paralysis due to factors which reduce the activity of pseudocholine esterase. The genetic variants as abnormal choline esterase, it causes severe deficiency, anticholine esterase and liver disease. These are all the conditions. It will reduce the activity of pseudocholine esterase and it will lead to prolonged paralysis because of succinylcholine. Malignant hyperthermia is a rare inherited condition, probably caused by a mutation of calcium release in sarcoplasmic reticulum, which results in muscle spasm, drastic rise in body temperature. Can be treated by cooling of the body and administration of Damrod. That is the life-saving drug in case of malignant hyperthermia. What are the signs of malignant hyperthermia? Specific signs of malignant hyperthermia are muscle rigidity, increased carbon dioxide production that can be picked up by end-tidal carbon dioxide monitoring, rhabdomyolysis, marked temperature elevation, sudden unexplained hyperpyrexia after intubation. So others you should suspect malignant hyperthermia. Non-specific signs are tachycardia, tachypnea, acidosis, and hyperkalemia. Then we will see how to treat this kind of patients. Immediately, we should discontinue all the triggering agents. We should cut off with halogen, isoflurane, sevoflurane, or nitrosapine, whatever the anesthesia inhalation is, you have to discontinue all the inhalation agents. Hyperventilate with the oxygen. You should ask for help immediately. Androline should be given 2.5 mg per kg and it should be diluted with 20 mg bottle with 60 ml distilled water. It should be continued for 24 to 48 hours. Androline continuous infusion must be peripheral cooling of the patient should be done. You should not give any calcium channel blockers. Lab support is very important. You should measure potassium and the myoglobin continuously. Then we'll see about succinyl choline therapeutic uses. It's mainly used, as we discussed earlier, for rapid endotracheal intubations with DCT. DCT mainly for depressive patients or suicidal tendency patients or psychiatric DCT. The succinyl choline role is very important. It should be administered intravenously. Metabolism to succinyl monocholine into choline. Succinyl monocholine is metabolized much more slowly to succinic acid and choline. The elimination half-life of succinyl choline is estimated to be 47 seconds. Now we'll see about non-depolarizing neuromuscular blocking agents. Can be classified into three groups: benzene, isoquinoline, aminosteroid, asymmetric mexidocumulates. Aminosteroids are most commonly used for drugs. Those are anthracium, necronium, lothronium, rapacurium. Asymmetric drugs are mainly gentacurium. Benzyl isoquinoline drugs are D-tubocurare, rapacurium, doxacurium, atracurium, cisatracurium, and mivacurium. All these drugs mainly clinically we are using atracurium, vecuronium. Rarely we are using cancuronium and cisatracurium. According to duration of action also, these drugs can be classified. Like ultra short acting drugs are gentacurium, rapacurium. Short acting drugs are mivacurium. Intermediate acting drugs are vecuronium, atracurium, cisatracurium, lopuronium. Long acting drugs are pancuronium, D-tubocurare, galamine, atacurium, doxacurium, 5-4. Non-depolarizing muscle relaxants, how they will relax? We compete with acetylcholine at the binding sites. Do not depolarize the motor end states. It acts as a competitive antagonist. Excessive concentration causes channel blockers. It acts on the presynaptic sites, prevent the movement of acetylcholine to release into the sites. The paralysis of passive, it can be antagonist with the neostigmine, but non-competitive depolarizing agents, the paralysis can be fasciculations will get. It's no need to antagonize with the neostigmine because the metabolism is different. That the metabolism is pseudocholine, it will act on the succinyl choline. Let's see something about pancuronium. The aminosteroid compound. The onset of action is 3 to 5 minutes. The duration it may act up to 60 to 90 minutes. The intubation dose 0.08 to 0.12 mg per kg. Elimination mainly with kidney or liver disease. Side effects are hypertension, tachycardia, and dysentery. Vecuronium is one of the most common used drugs in anesthesia and ICU setting also. It is an analog of pancuronium, but it's much less anticoagulating effect like pantoprazole. It's a shorter duration than pantoprazole. The onset of action is 3 to 5 minutes. The duration is 20 to 35 minutes. Intubation dose 0.08 to 1.12 mg per kg. Elimination is 40% by kidney and 60% by liver. Atracurium. Atracurium, most important drug in day-to-day anesthesia practice. The non-organ dependent elimination. That is why you can use all high-risk patients. The only disadvantage is cause histamine release and sudden hypotension may happen. That is the only side effect that you should be careful. The non-specific escape, 60% of the elimination. The Hoffman elimination, the spontaneous non-enzymatic elimination by lungs. This Hoffman elimination is most common entrance boostings can come through NEET exams. Chemical breakdown occurs at physiological periods and temperature. The onset of action is 3 to 5 minutes. The duration is 25 to 35 minutes. Intubation dose of atracurium is 0.5 mg per kg. Side effects are histamine release causing hypotension, tachycardia, and bronchospasm. Lateral toxicity breakdown product from Hoffman elimination associated with central nervous system activation results in elevation of MAC and the precipitation of seizures. Seizures and lateral toxicity also one of the most commonly repeated NEET exam question. Temperature and pH sensitivity is action marked prolonged in hypothermic or acidotic patients. You see something about cis-atracurium. It's isomer of atracurium metabolized by Hoffman elimination. The onset of action is 3 to 5 minutes. The duration is 20 to 25 minutes. Intubation dose is 0.1 to 0.2 mg per kg. The minimal cardiovascular side effects and the much less lateral produced. Bivacurium is a quaternary benzyl isoquinoline drug. Potency is 1/3 of atracurium. Slow onset 1.5 minutes with 0.25 mg per kg. Short duration 12 to 18 minutes with 0.25 mg per kg. Histamine release with doses of 3 to 4 XAD90. Hydrolyzed by acetylcholinesterase. Recovery may be prolonged in some populations. Rocuronium is an analog of recuronium. Rapid onset of 1 to 2 minutes. Duration is 20 to 35 minutes. The onset of action is similar to that of succinylcholine. Intubation dose is 0.6 mg per kg. Elimination primarily by liver, slightly by kidney. This graph will show the onset of action, duration of action, and elimination route option. Here you can see the fastest acting drugs are succinylcholine and bivacurium. Percent of dose dependent on renal elimination, you can see more than 90% of the drug is to calamine. So calamine can be avoided in renal failure patients. Less than 25 drugs are succinylcholine, recuronium, atracurium, bivacurium, rocuronium. These are all the drugs can be safely used in renal failure patients. What are the situations? The responses may vary. Temperature, acid-base balance, electrolyte abnormalities, age, any concurrent diseases, and the drug interactions will alter the neuromuscular blocking response. And any concurrent diseases like neurological diseases, muscular diseases, liver diseases, kidney diseases. Muscular diseases like myasthenia gravis, myasthenic syndromes also may vary. Drug interactions, mainly inhalational agents, intravenous anesthetics, local anesthetics, antibiotics, anticonvulsants, and medications. Muscle relaxants must not be given without adequate dosage of analgesic and hypnotic drugs. Inappropriately given a patient paralyzed but not anesthetic. It's the worst scenario you can ever imagine. What are the pharmacokinetics? Most peripheral neuromuscular blockers are quaternary compounds not absorbed orally. Always administered intravenously. Do not cross the blood-brain barrier or placenta. It is not analgesic agents. It will not cause the loss of consciousness. Volatile anesthetic potentiates effects by decreasing tone of skeletal muscles. Tone decreases postsynaptic membrane to depolarization. Acetylcholine is metabolized by pseudocholinesterase. Atracurium is inactivated in plasma by spontaneous non-enzymatic degradation. How to reverse the neuromuscular block? The goal is re-establishment of spontaneous respiration and the ability to protect the airway from the aspiration. Cholinesterase inhibitors mainly we are using to reverse the non-depolarizing muscle relaxation. Neuromuscular transmission is blocked when NMDR compete with acetylcholine to bind to nicotinic cholinergic receptors. The cholinergic inhibitors indirectly increases the amount of acetylcholine available to compete with NDMR, thereby re-establish neuromuscular transmission. What is the mechanism of action? Inhibiting activity of acetylcholinesterase. More acetylcholine available at neuromuscular junction to compete for sites on nicotinic cholinergic receptors. Action at muscarinic cholinergic receptors, bradycardia, hypersecretion, increased intestinal tone. What is the antagonism of neuromuscular block? Effectiveness of anticholinesterase depends upon the degree of recovery present when they are administered. Anticholinesterase are neostigmine, iridostigmine, and heterochromic. Muscarinic side effects are minimized by anticholinergic agents like atropine, copolamine, glycopyrrolate. Neostigmine is a quaternary ammonium group. Dosage is 0.04 to 0.8 mg per kg. It affects apparently in 5 to 10 minutes and lasts more than 1 hour. Mainly cause muscarinic side effects which can be minimized by prior administration of anticholinergic drugs like atropine and glycopyrrolate. Also used to treat urinary bladder atony and paralytic ileus. Glycopyrrolate dose is 0.05 to 0.1 mg per kg up to 0.2 to 0.3 mg per kg. Cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. It's almost always devoid of central nervous system and ophthalmic activities. Potent inhibition of salivary gland and respiratory tract secretions. Longer duration than the atropine. Post-operative residual curation. Common